The MotoGP paddock was suddenly shaken, not by the roar of engines or drama on the track, but by the terrifying news that a death trap had been prepared by Aprilia's boss to stop Marc Márquez's winning streak and end Ducati's dominance ahead of the 2026 season. Could this be the start of the most brutal and intriguing war in MotoGP history? Let's discuss it. To understand the massive explosion that is currently shaking the paddock, we must rewind to the 2025 season. It will almost certainly be remembered as the greatest triumph of Marc Márquez's career, a season when everything seemed to be subordinated to one name. After his sensational move to the factory Ducati team, Marquez emerged like a reborn monster. Old wounds, doubts, and years of suffering seemed to be erased overnight. Riding the Desmercedesi GP25, he wasn't just fast, he was terrifying. His statistics were almost unbelievable. 15 podiums and 11 major race wins. His rivals were more preoccupied with securing positions than dreaming of defeating him. Marquez's dominance was so brutal that he secured his 9th World Championship title at the Japanese Grand Prix, with 5 races of the season still to go. This is a rare sight in the modern MotoGP era. At the time, MotoGP seemed completely under his control. He controlled the pace of the races, the psychology of his rivals, and even the direction of conversations in the paddock. However, amidst this absolute supremacy, fate intervened. A horrific crash at the Mandalika circuit in Indonesia brought this perfect story to a sudden and devastating end. The incident forced him to end the season early, bringing a bitter end to a year of dominance. It was precisely from this moment of vulnerability, the downfall of the king, that hopes began to grow among his rivals, especially those from Noala, Aprilia's home base, who were quietly sensing an opportunity to turn things around. Massimo Rivola, the former Formula One strategist who now heads Aprilia Racing, was reportedly losing patience. After years in the shadow of a dominant force, Aprilia no longer wanted to play second fiddle in an era of increasing Ducati and Marquez dominance. Rivola identified one man as the spearhead of that resistance, a figure he believed capable of disrupting the status quo, Marco Bezzecchi. "He's not afraid of anything," Rivola told Spanish media outlet Motosan. His words were short, but their meaning was clear: a declaration of war. Bezzecchi performed exceptionally throughout the 2025 season. Riding an Aprilia RSGP, which evolved into a competitive machine, he achieved a series of significant podium finishes, including 3 victories which altered the paddock's perception of Aprilia. One of these victories was particularly significant. He defeated Marc Márquez head-to-head at Silverstone in a duel filled with tension and meaning. It wasn't just an ordinary victory. It sent a clear message to the entire paddock. Márquez could be beaten. He could be beaten. Bezzecchi finished 3rd in the world standings, just behind the Marquez brothers. For Rivola, that position wasn't just a number. It proved that Aprilia had finally found the most important piece of the puzzle: a young, aggressive Italian rider full of attacking instincts and, most importantly, without the psychological burden of being compared to Marc Márquez. From that point, Aprilia believed that the real fight could begin. However, Massimo Rivola realized that having just one rider would not be enough to challenge the established order. Therefore, his ultimatum was not empty threats, but a cold, calculated plan of action. The next target was clear: Jorge Martin, a rider expected to return fully fit, both physically and mentally. "I want to see him with his teammates at 100%, Rivola stated firmly, leaving no room for interpretation, so the team doesn't have to focus entirely on one rider. Aprilia's strategy is to create pressure from 2 directions at once, forcing Ducati and Marc Márquez out of their strategic comfort zone. Marco Bezzecchi is tipped to be the main anti-Márquez contender, a rider charged with breaking their rhythm and challenging their dominance. Meanwhile, Jorge Martin serves as a lethal counterbalance and an additional threat from unexpected directions. If these plans come to fruition, Aprilia could have one of the most aggressive and formidable lineups on the 2026 MotoGP grid. While Aprilia quietly formulates its war plans and prepares traps for the future, a storm is erupting from within Ducati itself, arriving without warning and striking straight at the heart of the Italian manufacturer's team. The source is no ordinary person, but a highly respected figure in the paddock, Paolo Simoncelli, the father of the late Marco Simoncelli, whose words are always taken seriously. In candid interviews with the Italian press, Simoncelli holds nothing back. He delivered a scathing critique of Francesco Bagnaia's 2025 season, a campaign that ended in disappointment for the two-time world champion. Bagnaia finished fifth in the final standings, with only 2 wins throughout the season. This seemed an odd statistic for an Italian rider on the best bike in MotoGP. However, according to Simoncelli, the root of the problem did not lie with Ducati or the Desmosedici, which has long been considered the most lethal weapon in the paddock. He wasn't ready to face such a strong teammate, said Simoncelli sharply, making no attempt to soften his point. The teammate in question wasn't just any fast rider, but Marc Márquez. His presence not only changed the team's balance, but also shook the mentality and power hierarchy within the Ducati garage. Simoncelli took it further, and it was at this point that the real bombshell was dropped. He did more than just criticise on-track performance. He also accused Valentino Rossi's circle of having a significant influence, which he believed played a role in underestimating Marc Márquez's threat from the start. Bagnaia comes from Valentino Rossi's circle. Having listened to everything that was said in that group, they underestimated Marquez, Simoncelli stated bluntly. This accusation is clearly no small matter. It's not just about racing technique or motorcycle setup, but also about mindset and mentality. Simoncelli implied that the historical rivalry between Rossi and Marquez had seeped into Bagnaia's subconscious, creating a distorted perception of Marquez on the track. According to this view, Bagnaia allegedly believed that his failure to win the title after coming close in 2024 was simply a matter of detail, that if he could eliminate one small mistake, the balance would tip in his favour. However, the reality he faced was far more brutal. As Simoncelli pointedly emphasised, Marc on the track is a wild animal. When old beliefs collide with this new reality, an unseen crisis begins that not only affects performance, but also erodes confidence. Ironically, Simoncelli praised Marquez. He compared Marquez's riding style to that of his late son. "I've always liked him. He thinks and races like my son. I know he's the strongest." This statement was a harsh blow to Rossi's camp, emphasising that the old conflict was never truly over. The 2026 season won't be easy, but that's precisely why it has the potential to be one of the most brutal and historic seasons in the modern MotoGP era. Who will survive when the pressure reaches its maximum? Leave your thoughts below.